The Israeli army, they aren't robots. They aren't angels. Not all of them are perfect. There are definitely situations where Israeli soldiers act out of line. There are times when they're happy about Palestinians dying or being hurt. I can't deny that. The possibility that a lot of these woke people, so for instance, people who are trans or whatever it is, I think that they have this weird sexual attraction, and hear me out here, to very fundamentalist people. If we're attacked by Turkey, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, Lebanon, like if 8 countries come and attack us, nuclear bombs are coming out. And I'm going to say it, and I will not take this back. This tiny Jewish population has a much higher IQ than the average Muslim in the population. Because the smart ones of us understand that we're going to have to give up being liked to survive. Whenever they show videos, these propaganda videos, if you go on Google and you look at Hamas, they look pretty dangerous, right? They look like serious guys. But when Israel goes in on the ground with all of their artillery and tanks and soldiers, special forces, dogs, they go in heavy. Suddenly, most of the Hamas guys, everything comes off. Where's all this crazy propaganda nasheed shit when we come in?
All right, folks, this is Haris Sultan. And as you guys probably already have seen my interview with Corey, if you haven't, do check it out. And I've been trying to speak with as many Israeli Jews, Zionists as possible, just to understand the other side of the argument. And probably because I have a lot of people from Pakistan who follow me, maybe some other people from the Muslim world as well. I'm not saying which side of the argument is true. You make up your own mind. But just be aware of the other side of the argument. I think, in my experience, even when I became an atheist, this was a very one-sided affair as a Pakistani, even as an ex-Muslim atheist later on. People in the Muslim world just see Israel is all evil and Palestinians are all victims. And there was no effort made by the Muslim leadership to educate people or try to paint a fairer picture of the conflict. So that's why I'm trying to talk to as many Israeli Jews as possible. And I spoke with Rafi a couple of weeks ago. I found him very knowledgeable and I found him very fair. But I had a few questions of my own, but I couldn't ask them because I was being interviewed. So now I have the opportunity to ask him questions. Rafi is an Israeli Jew, Zionist, and a former IDF soldier. And he lives in Miami, Florida. He's a real estate agent or realtor, as you guys call it. That's his day job. But obviously, being an Israeli Jew, he's very passionate about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as well. So, Rafi, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Great. So let's start with this word Zionist, because I've been using this word for myself now. I remember you even asked me, Haris, can I use that word for you? And I was like, yeah, use it to describe me. Because to me, this was a very dirty word. And it's a very dirty word for a lot of people in the Muslim world. But when I looked up the definition, and I've said it before, and thanks to a lot of Israeli people who now follow me on Twitter, mainly on Twitter, who are okay with my opinion that if I was around in the 40s, I would not have supported the creation of Israel, purely because on the basis of religion. But it has been here for 75 years. So it has a right to exist. And in today's world, Zionist means someone who is in favor of Israel's existence, which obviously I am. And I got to thinking that everyone who supports a two-state solution is also a Zionist in a way, because unless you believe in from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and there should be no Israel, then okay, you're anti-Zionist. But if you believe Israel has a right to exist, whether going back to 1967 borders or whatever, then you're a Zionist as well. Is that a fair definition of Zionism?
Yes. So people have different understandings of it, but the true definition of it is Zion, and Zion is the Hebrew word for it. Zion is the anglicized word of it. And essentially it means Jerusalem. And it's our longing to return to Jerusalem and the land of Israel as a whole. And that's been something that Jews have been longing for since we were kicked out of Israel. So people have this notion that it's some colonialist, evil idea to rid people of the land and take it over and dominate and do this and do that. And for us, it's the biblical desire and more, as well as the national desire to have sovereignty over the land that we believe we were promised, right? And so what a lot of people contest, though, is they say, okay, if it's biblical, if it's religious, why were the founders of Zionism some either atheist or completely disconnected? And it is obviously raises an interesting question. From their belief, however, even if they're not particularly religious, they are allowing for the Jewish people to have their own land, whether they be religious Jews, non-religious Jews. And that's something I completely support, because there's no land on the planet where everybody believes the same thing. You know, you have people of all different levels of belief in every piece of land. And I think it's between them and God, if they believe in God, to do as they wish in terms of religious level. So I do believe that if someone believes in sovereignty of Jewish people in the land of Israel, then that makes them a Zionist, yes.
But a lot of people say that it's not a religious conflict. It's not about that. Even Palestinians sometimes use it when it suits them, that it's a matter of indigenous people fighting for their indigenous land. And Israelis say that we are the local native inhabitants of this region. But I feel that neither side are being totally honest about it. At the heart of it, this issue is rooted in religion. And then it becomes more complicated. As you said, the founding fathers of modern Zionism, they were all atheists. There are a lot of atheists in the Israeli government.
Not currently. Currently, a lot of them are religious. You do have, I'm sure you have some.
Actually, Corey told me that probably only 10% of the Israeli population is secular or atheist.
Most Israelis probably believe in God. They might not be overly practicing in terms of everyday things, but I would say that most of them probably believe in God.
But would you accept that at the heart of it, it is a religious issue? Because let's just say if all the Jews can trace back their lineage all the way back to the Israelites, 2,000 years later, they would not have had the motivation to go back to that particular piece of land had they not been connected through religion. Because there's so many other people around the world who move on. I don't see any Americans saying that we want to go back to our ancestral land of England because we came here 300 years ago.
I think a lot of it has to do with the constant persecution. What's also interesting is they were initially going to set up plans for, I think, I know for sure Uganda, but I think it was either Venezuela or Argentina, for the Jews to set up their land. And I think that if that had happened, it would have been a lot easier to have kicked us out. Say the Ugandans would have contested that and said, oh, we don't want these Jews here. We wouldn't have that connection to it. We'd say, oh, okay, what is this, Uganda? So I don't think we would have had that same fight that we have in us. Whenever we fight wars, we fight for survival because we genuinely see this as our homeland. In Uganda, the Jews would have been like, should we really all die for this? Maybe we should just pack up and leave. Do you get what I'm saying?
I find it very disingenuous from the Muslim side when they say, oh, it's a religious issue, and they try to take a moral high ground by saying, but Palestinian people are the indigenous people of the region. And since you're an atheist, you should support them because this is a religious cause. And I accept that, yes, there is an element of religion in that. But you have 57 Muslim countries, and Islam is a heavy part of those countries. Pakistan, for example, was founded in the name of religion, Islam. Even though I'm an atheist, I don't follow any religion. I can understand that there are people who do follow religion, like how people of Pakistan follow Islam. They have a right to follow Islam. They have a right to govern themselves the way they want to govern themselves. Why can't we extend the courtesy to Jewish people? No Muslim would be okay if they were expelled from Mecca, and then, if given an opportunity 2,000 years later to go back and reacquire Mecca, I don't think anyone would say no. They would say, yes, okay, this is our homeland. We want to go back. So I find extreme hypocrisy on the Muslim side.
I love what you just said, by the way. I love what you just said. That whole point you just made, I think, was really spot on.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We've spoken about one dirty word, Zionism. Now let's talk about the second dirty word, which is IDF. So you served in the IDF. The IDF gets one of the worst reps for any military force. Baby killers, all kinds of bad names that they use for them. So tell us a little bit about your time in the IDF, the culture, the bad rep that it gets, how off the mark they are. Why do you think they get this kind of rep? Is it all propaganda?
I think the Israeli army is one of the most well-trained. They have some of the best technology. And at the same time, there are young kids drafting. Okay. And these kids are teenagers. They haven't gone to college. Whether they go to college or not is after the army is up to them. But they aren't robots. They aren't angels. Not all of them are perfect. A lot of them have had family members or people they know that have been killed or injured in attacks. And so there are definitely situations where Israeli soldiers act out of line. There are times when they're happy about Palestinians dying or being hurt. I can't deny that because I was one of them. And I felt there were periods of time where I wanted to hurt people. And at the same time, I understand, though, that there's, for the most part, much more of a desire to defend the people than to go out offensively hurting Palestinians. I just know that from personal experience and what I've experienced overall. And I also know that the Israeli army, for the most part, holds their soldiers to a high standard. So the way they conduct themselves in terms of treating Palestinians whether they're captives or talking to them at checkpoints or just interacting with them on a daily basis, there's a certain level of conduct that they're expected to abide by. And I would say the Israeli army, more so than probably any other army, keeps to those standards. And oftentimes that ends up hurting us, especially in times of war, with the notes, with the knocks on top of the roofs of buildings, these targeted bombings. But I think the reality is that we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Because whether we kill one Palestinian or 20,000, of course, there's a massive difference in number. I just think that the people who don't support Israel's right to exist are going to find reasons no matter what we do. And we try so hard as Jews to legitimize ourselves. We keep trying to beg the international world to accept us. And the more we do it, the less it helps, really. I think the people who support our right to exist and support our way of thinking are going to do, and the ones who don't may never. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to be good people and do things the right way. For example, a lot of the Muslim population, they believe that the land should be Muslim. And just our existence as a whole, no matter what we do, is not valid, period, end of story. My army experience was intense. I was in the West Bank. Arrests very often. There were riots that we had to control. There were checkpoints that we did. I've had some interesting conversations with Palestinians, peaceful conversations. Sometimes, obviously, I had to be very serious with them. Sometimes they didn't want to cooperate. For the most part, I never had an issue, me personally. They were very cooperative with me. But I've had some interesting conversations with them in the West Bank, and we talked about ISIS, and I said, hey, I know you probably don't like me, and you might even want me dead, but you are much better off. I had this conversation in a park. We were doing security in a park that had Israelis and Palestinians. I don't remember how the conversation happened, but I basically looked him in the face and I said, as much as you want to complain that we are not fair enough to you and you probably wish that we all just disappeared, you are much better off having us here than having ISIS, because at that time, ISIS was like really causing problems. And he said, yeah, you're right.
I'm just going to ask some of these questions which are floating around on the internet, but they might be very stupid because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. So anything that sounds like a conspiracy, I just don't believe it. I think there was an article that was published by one of the reputable news outlets that showed that the Israeli government apologized to ISIS for accidentally taking them out or something. How do you answer that Israel is in cahoots with ISIS? As stupid as it is, but how do you?
So there's a lot of those claims, man. Everyone always has these conspiracies. I strongly believe that's not the case, but I always understand that I am not the smartest person at all, and anything's possible. The likelihood's super slim. I believe that the vast majority of ISIS members have a massive hatred for Jews. They are fundamentalist Muslims. And I think that the reason why they didn't attack Israel and they didn't get to it was not because they didn't want to, but because they genuinely understood that we would see them as such a massive threat that we would demolish them. That it wouldn't be a Hamas Israel thing. It would be, we would go and just destroy every single one of them. We would just carpet bomb, just flatten every existing part of ISIS if they actually came for us. And I think knowing that, they probably said, we're not ready for this kind of altercation. I think they were trying to take more land in Syria and maybe Iraq in the meantime. And then eventually their plan was to probably get to us. They spoke to a reporter, I think he was South African or British. Supposedly the claim is that they said Israel's still too strong of a military. They would be able to defeat us, something along those lines. That was the claim anyway.
Going back to the IDF. So we see pictures like these that are used as propaganda all across Muslim handles where people are being rounded up. I'm sure you've seen some other photos as well. Do you think Israel is in control of getting the information out, or why is Israel's PR so bad?
It's a very interesting question. I can't say I have the answer for this. First off, I think a lot of people have a natural underdog mentality. So a lot of people have a feeling that automatically the underdog is correct. People also have a feeling that the person who yells louder in the argument is right, or the person that makes a bigger scene or is more emotionally intense. With Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, he's always yelling, so he must be more right because he's so passionate. And that's not what's true. So the reality is there's no complete right and complete wrong in this entire conflict. But there are absolute truths of what Hamas did is absolutely disgusting and horrible. The Israeli army is killing Gazan civilians, but the question is, why is all this happening, and what's justified and what isn't? And when it gets to war, it becomes very complex, and you see all these pictures of what Israel is saying are Hamas captives. I'm not in Gaza right now. I can't tell you that every single one of them is part of Hamas. So I really couldn't answer that. I think the Muslim population is very large. The woke population now in all these college campuses, most of them really don't know anything about anything. I'm not discrediting that they're all stupid, but
Most
they
of
live
them
very
are.
cushy lives. Yeah, most of them are just
They're ignorant
they're very
and
naive.
ignorant.
They're very naive. They're very ignorant. They're highly emotional. They're part of a generation that doesn't think very critically. They let their emotions think before facts. Everything about them is very paradoxical and hypocritical. They're very pro-gay, pro-freedom, pro-liberalism, but then they're supporting a group that's absolutely against all of it. And they're living in a country where they have the freedom to discuss all of these things and be outraged about all these things. But then they're supporting a group that would kill them if they had rulership over America. You know what also I think is so crazy? And I saw an article about this and I wish I could find it. I've tried to find it because it's so good, but someone wrote an article about the possibility that a lot of these woke people, so for instance, people who are trans or whatever it is, I think that they have this weird sexual attraction, and hear me out here, to very fundamentalist people because they're so serious about their beliefs. They're so steadfast and no, I don't care. I'm a Muslim. You can't do this. You can't do that. And there's almost this attraction to it. It's like, you're so against me. You hate what I stand for. But I'm so turned on by it because you're relentless in your belief. Maybe I can change you. Maybe I can make you more gentle. It's like the Beauty and the Beast paradigm. It's like, maybe I can shave your beard down a little bit and just calm you down. You probably have a really big heart. You're just standing for what you believe in. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No, I've actually. I think maybe I tweeted about it, but like I posed it in a humorous way. But I think it's a serious issue. So all of these people, these wokes, blue hair, they're very soft kind of people, and I think there is a bit of weird attraction to this alpha, big, exotic manhood who's gonna dominate them. I call it the Dimmy fetish.
They have their mask on. They look scary. They have their guns. They believe in. They're gonna die for the cause. And then
That's
all these
sexy.
little woke in Penn. There's something sexy about it, right? The Penn State. They're like, I'm just taking my electives. You know what I'm saying? And then, but Hamas, they're freedom fighters. They're resistance. I love it. You know what I mean?
It's
I'm saying this to be funny, but I think
It's
there's
true.
a genuine.
I genuinely believe that
Yeah.
too, because I have seen so many of those tweets from these leftist wokes. And I think this probably was one of the reasons that a lot of white women converted to Islam and they went to ISIS. ISIS was also very good at propagating its soldiers as these exotic alpha men who are fighting for a greater cause, challenging the evil West and all that kind of jazz. Yeah, now that you're onto something.
So glad you agreed with me.
No.
I'm so glad you understood.
I do, bro. Like I have seen that before, and I just couldn't. As I said, like I've said it before in a humorous way, but I didn't really push on it. But actually, send me that article. I think if
I have to find it, man.
Yeah.
I have to find it. It was so beautifully written. It was articulated so well. What's even funny, even something I notice about women who are very liberal, right? They think they want a very soft guy, but they still want that masculine guy.
all women want that,
You know,
but
and
it depends how masculine they
they're
want it.
frustrated by the masculine guy.
Well,
Right, but they're frustrated by the masculine guy on one hand because he's so willing to argue with them and he stands his ground. but then they're so attracted to it too because he's challenging me. The guys I hang out with, the liberal guys I hang out with, they never challenge me. And it's
Well.
just, it's a similar, I think there's a similarity to it. But anyway, that's a whole different rabbit hole. Let's stay on topic.
Yeah, I know that's a very
Go ahead.
interesting topic too, because but I could get in trouble.
Who?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, these red-pilled arguments, there's a lot of truth to them. Yeah, the women want, no matter how modern these women are, they really do want some masculine men, and Western men are not as masculine as they used to be. So it's only natural for them to look eastwards, where these cultures still have high testosterone men who are a bit raw, who don't follow these modern cultural values, even though it's the feminists who have actually emasculated men in the West, right? So now they're turning to them and they find them sexy.
Yeah, they thought they wanted it, and then they realized that wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah.
The Russian men, all these men, even Israeli men are usually very masculine. They don't really subscribe to all that. Yeah, you have liberals, or most Israeli men are still very much Eastern. Yeah. But,
so I'm exactly 10 years older than you, and I've seen so much, this massive cultural shift in the last 20 years, that now I understand, what the people in the 70s must have felt when they would have gone from segregated, very conventional family to this hippie culture. And then maybe every decade things change. There's a massive cultural shift. Even Islam, yeah, you might see that Muslims are still very traditional, but I see a lot of Muslims who profess their Muslimness, who believe in Allah and everything, blah, blah, blah. But even they have been diluted in their Muslimness. For example, Western Muslim men, yeah, they're angry. You need an enemy, and they have an enemy. Yeah, they have the West as an enemy. But despite of that, they're not as reactive or as violent as some of these men, let's just say, from Muslim countries are, like Pakistan or Bangladesh. But then when I look into Pakistan and Bangladesh and all these kind of countries, and then I see, they're also having a little bit of a cultural shift. They're also getting emasculated. They're also getting softened. Probably they're not as soft as Western men, but they are getting softer. Every generation is softer than the one before. So even though they have these very strong religious ideology to keep them motivated, but even they are getting diluted. It's very interesting where it's going to end up.
But that's also why I believe war exists. Because people are like, you just get rid of war. Violence, war, disagreement, these things exist to keep us resilient and tough. The survival of the fittest, may the best man win. All of these ideas of continuing to create strong humans that can continue to survive. If everything's just soft and cushy, look what happens. So whether you believe in God or Mother Nature or whatever it is, the war that's happening with Israelis and Palestinians, it's toughening both sides. The Israeli young boys at 18 are going into military environments. They have to kill. They have to be killed. They're seeing death. They're seeing destruction. Those men are going to be tough men. They might have PTSD. You compare an 18-year-old Israeli to almost any of these college kids, whether Jewish or not Jewish, they're going to be mentally just right. And the same for Palestinians. Whatever you want to say about them, mentally, they're going to be extremely resilient
and tough. Yeah.
So very tough. You put them through most environments, and then American kid in their teens, 20s, 30s, they would look at it and they'll laugh at it. They'll be like, I lost my arm yesterday. What the fuck is this shit?
Wars are always won on the strength of the pretext. And I think Israeli people really believe in defending themselves. This is why you see Jews from all over the world that go back to Israel to serve in the army. But we don't see these Muslim apologists going to Palestine.
Israel would not.
Yeah, I know that. But I don't think they are willing to go there either. I don't think that's happening.
They're not.
They're not lining up. Mohammed Hijab is not lining up to go there. You know, he's busy.
First of all, if they really wanted to, they could have probably figured out a way to get in through Egypt. If they were like really like gung ho,
at least they would go to Egypt and then try to get in from there. Yeah, I admit that the Egyptian authorities and the Israeli army wouldn't let them in, but at least you go there and then hope for the best.
If they were really like, I'm going to do everything I can, a few of them would get.
Yeah, and look,
a few of them would manage. They would talk to the right people. They'd go in through the tunnels. They'd get through. But they're not about to do that.
How all these Europeans ended up in Syria fighting for ISIS. Yeah, they went through Turkey. They went through all these other places, and then they ended up there. So yeah, if they really wanted to, they'd go there. But Israeli people I know a lady, she's a journalist, and her husband, he went back to Israel because he was drafted or he was called for or something. Most Western armies, they actually run away. Soldiers, they don't want to go to war because partly they don't believe in that war. And then also they're like, why should I go and die for this political cause in a far-flung conflict? But this shows that Israeli people genuinely believe that they have a right to exist and they have an existential threat. And I think that's where the strength of Israel remains.
That's our biggest weapon, though. It's not the support of America and all these other things. The reality is the Muslim world knows deep down that we're not. Your typical Israeli soldier is not like an American soldier. We're big and brawly. You have Israeli soldiers that are special forces soldiers. Some of them are in very good shape. Most of them are not tall, big guys. A lot of Jews in general are not really tall and massive. A lot of the special forces soldiers are actually pretty short. But that also happens in the American army because they're more agile, they're faster, they're not as large, not as easy to shoot. But the point is, it's not all about our appearance. It's the fact that we have this feeling that this is all we've got. And so we're going to fight until the end. The only way we're going to lose Israel is if someone is able to literally get us to surrender, which would be very difficult because we're not going to give it up. We're just not going to give it up. So being in that position makes us a very formidable opponent. And I think that the Muslim world deep down, they know that. Like if we're attacked by Turkey, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, Lebanon, like if 8 countries come and attack us, nuclear bombs are coming out. It's happening. And they know that. So even if they end up succeeding, they're going to get hit really hard because Israel's going to say, okay, this might be the end. Even though the religious Jews are going to say, nope, we're never going anywhere. And I believe that. We're still going to stick around, that crazy ass Jews, but we're just going to go all out if that happens. The Air Force is just going to go crazy. That it won't be this thing where we're like, we're sorry, 20,000. Oh, it's too much. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. We're just going to, you get me?
Yeah.
And I hope that would be a horrible situation, but the world knows that if we feel that we need to, we're going to do whatever we have to do because we don't have a choice. That's what drives us. That's what creates.
And I think this is the attitude of Israel that actually angers a lot of Muslims as well, because like these Western powers, especially in the recent couple of decades, they are very soft, very diplomatic in their approach. But when it comes to looking at Israel, Israel makes no apologies for its defense. When we see IDF, they're very firm, and it angers Muslims because they're like, hang on a second, we're supposed to be God's favorite people. How come we're so helpless and these guys are so arrogant and they're like, fuck you, we're going to drop bombs. We'll fuck you up. We'll lay your city to ruins. So that's one of the things. And I think probably that attitude.
I think it's the chosen thing. I think and it sounds shitty, but it works this way in business. Have you ever heard of Alex Hormozi?
No.
You should check out Alex Hormozi. I think he's originally he's definitely not religious, but I'm assuming he originally comes from Muslim parents. His family's Iranian, at least from I think maybe the father's side. Totally secular dude, extremely successful, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You would like him. He's just a really likable dude. He has a big Instagram. I'll show you his stuff. And he said one of the biggest components to being highly successful is thinking that you're better than other people. And there are many groups of people that feel supremacy, that feel they are the best looking, or their religion is true, right? It's not just Jews who have this thought. It's not necessarily a supremacy that we all feel. It's that we believe that God gave us a special job, that being chosen doesn't mean that we're better than you per se. It means that we have a bigger responsibility. And that in turn leads Jews to believe that they're better, because if we're given more responsibility, that must mean we're better. The funny thing is, if other people have this belief too, why don't other people give any thought to it? I don't know if you've ever heard of Dennis Prager, PragerU. I don't know if this rings a bell, because he brought this up with Jordan Peterson. They're having this conversation. And he was basically saying that, why is it that when the Japanese have this thought, or when other groups have this thought, nobody pays attention, but when Jews claim chosenness, everyone seems to be like, no, that's not true. Because maybe deep down they feel maybe it is. Maybe they're threatened by it. And so when an army of Jews has this feeling deep down that they are the chosen nation, they feel this feeling of togetherness, like we're never going to be defeated. We're always going to. And whether that's true or not, it leads to a very powerful.
Yeah, but that's only one side of the argument, because the other side is also Jews have been very good in reminding the world, especially the Western world, that what happened to them in the 20th century. So there is that victim element as well. I'm not saying the crying victim, because obviously it's true what happened.
There is the victim element, but Jews don't play into meaning the world could look at it as victimhood, but we, as Jewish people, we remember, but we don't let it stop us. Meaning Jews that survived the Holocaust, they moved to America or Europe. A lot of them became very successful. Jewish people, after tragedies, they didn't just sit there and blame everybody. Yeah, we remember our hard times. We have Hanukkah, which commemorates victory over conquering armies. We think about these things all the time, but I think that we take it with us and we use it to make us stronger. But yeah, you can look at it as victim, but I hear why you say that. I guess
because the West is very sensitive about it. And if you see what's happening in Germany, Germans have been very tolerant towards migrants and other cultures. But now when they see these pro-Palestine or pro-Hamas, however you want to say it, these protests, they've been cracking down hard because they have the biggest guilt of what happened to the Jewish people. So I think it goes both ways. And obviously, I think I haven't met a single nationality that doesn't believe that they're the best of the best. But yeah, you're probably right when it comes to how they apply it to themselves. And being stateless for so long, Jews have always been financially successful, and they've really done well in the fields of education and technology. Per capita, they've been miles ahead of every other nation on earth. So I think there's so many other factors involved in that too. And yeah, you're right. Of course, you have to believe in yourself. If you think you're not worth it, you're the worst of the worst, or you're just stupid, then of course you're not going to achieve anything.
It's a very high level of confidence that the overall Jewish population has. It's a very high standard that they hold themselves to. And so you see the unity in Israel, not outside, but the Jewish unity it's incredible. It's really something else. Like the way that all these famous Israeli singers go to the army bases, and you'll have the singer on top of a soldier's shoulders. Yeah. It's a tough one. And they're so together, man. Just everyone. It doesn't matter what kind of Jew they are. They're just so together. Very hard to beat that, dude. It's very hard to fight that togetherness and win it and defeat it. It's tough to do.
Yeah. I understand when you're in a conflict zone, you said that earlier as well, that the young soldiers in the IDF, and they're not perfect. Some of them have developed this resentment towards certain people because they've lost their family members. And obviously that's the argument that the Palestinians make as well, that if your family member is killed by Israeli bombs, how can you strive for peace, or how can you accept that state? My question is, in your mind, what's the solution? Where's it going to end? Because if you keep going on, you killed 10 of my people, I killed 100 of your people, it's just never going to end.
That's why when we spoke on my show, I gave you an answer you didn't like, and I still, unfortunately, have that feeling. So yeah, I'll just say it on here. I'm a very optimistic person, and I believe that humanity can improve and can change. I think we've come a long way as humans, but I think we're always going to some degree, stick to our nature, and it'll always linger, no matter whether we can decrease it a little bit or we can change things. Yeah, we've gotten away from conquest and war to a large extent, but look how weak Western society has become. Look how soft people are, how incapable they are of accomplishing the most simple tasks. And what that usually does is that can cause a society to crumble from the inside. Forget about, invading armies and whatnot. So you always need an element of toughness and potential danger and threat of violence and evil, good and evil, good and bad, things of that, poor, wealth, etc. What I want and what I think will be are two different things. And I hope that they aren't. I hope what I want and what will be can be synonymous. While I'm optimistic, I also think I'm realistic. And I just think that both groups feel an absolute connection to the land, as they should. I can't blame Palestinians for feeling that they're indigenous and connected and whatnot. We're also fighting with a group of people who is just as connected to the land. And as such, it creates a very challenging circumstance. I think both sides need to try to understand each other more. And if they're not willing to do that, we'll never have a resolution. We'll never be able to resolve anything. Two states, I don't know if that'll ever happen. I don't know if one state will ever happen. And that's what leads me to believe that the Israeli government and the Palestinian government probably know deep down that what I'm saying is probably, that's just what I believe. And I know you don't want to believe that. I know you want to be more optimistic, but being that both sides have a large connection to religion, and you can't just expect them all to become atheists. I know maybe in your ideal world, everybody would become atheist. All the religion would go out the window. They would just see it as a piece of land. Nobody would give a shit. They'd say, fuck all this Judaism, Torah, blah, 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 blah. It wouldn't matter. But on the flip side, if there was no religion, they might just fight on the basis of their own
real
other
estate,
beliefs, right? If it was an atheist,
that they could still be fighting over real estate. Okay, how much land?
it could be correct. It could be a fight over anything else of just my people versus your people. It could be a totally separate issue. I honestly think that it also depends on your religious level. Does Messiah exist? Will it ever come? Because both parties are waiting for this supposed Messiah to come, which may never come.
And it's going to be on there. The both sides believe that. It's going to be on my side.
It's crazy, right? Like, I love it's so interesting because Jews will be like, yeah, God is with us. And then the Palestinians are like, yes, God is with us. They'll be like, that phrase they always
throw
say
in evangelical Christians as well.
Everyone thinks God's with them and not with the other party. It's the most asinine shit. It's so funny. And then they go, and they really believe it so strongly, though. And I say this, I make fun of all religions for this. But then you always have, what's that term? Because you're Muslim, they say, Hasbi Allah. How does the whole phrase go? It basically means...
Yeah, I don't know the Arabic of that. God is on our side,
God is sufficient. It's basically just when a Gazan is walking in, a building blows up, or he almost dies, he basically is saying to God, whatever you decide for me is sufficient. I surrender to you.
It must be a very Palestinian thing. We don't hear that in Pakistan, or I've never heard of that. But it must be a very Palestinian thing.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah, because they're in a different state, maybe because all they see is like bombs dropping and the buildings blowing up, and then they have no choice but to accept it. Wars.
Yeah, so which makes them more and more religious, which is a point that people make. The more you fight with them, the more you can find them, the more religious, fundamentally religious they get.
It doesn't make any sense to me, though. Like, it's just...
Isn't it funny, though?
It's counterintuitive, isn't it?
As an atheist, the more shitty your environment is, the more religious you get. The more peaceful your environment is, the more you walk away from religion. Isn't that funny?
It is funny, and it's been observed all across the world, but I'm like, why can't you just question your God? Why this misery has befallen them?
It's hard to look in the mirror and ask questions. People don't like to change, man. But that's also why this massive Muslim population can't defeat this little Jewish population. Because as a whole, and I'm going to say it, and I will not take this back, this tiny Jewish population has a much higher IQ than the average Muslim in the population. And it's just because of, it could be a number of things, but we question things more. We have more freedom to live our lives a certain way. We're not going to be killed for leaving Judaism. We might be shunned. We might be ousted from the community. We can go find another community. We can become a Reform Jew or a conservative Jew or whatever Jew. Some other Jew will accept us. What's the worst? Our parents say, I can't believe it. Oh, you're so bad. Well, okay, congratulations. So we'll go find somewhere else to go. We're not going to be hung on some stake for it. So I think that our ability to question and be open and challenge has allowed for us to innovate, to create, to invent. Or in Israel, we have liberals and right wing and all these other groups, and they argue with each other. And from those arguments, they learn from each other, and they're able to continue to build. The thing about Jewish people in general is Israelis, we look inward a lot. It might seem like we're always blaming other people, like, oh, Hamas is the problem, but Jews listen to the criticism we get. We don't just ignore it and blow it. We don't want the world to think that we're listening to it so much, but a lot of us are. We listen to it and we process it. And we go, is there a point to this? Does it make sense? And then we have to strategize and figure out how to move on from that. And so I think that's why we've been so successful in 75 years, that we've been able to innovate and do as much as we've done. You can't even boycott us at this point. You might as well boycott everything.
No.
Because we've not, okay, that sounds, I don't mean to go that far, but there's a lot that we've created. And
no, it's true. It's funny that Muslims have been boycotting Zara and Starbucks.
You know how many things they're going to have to boycott?
I've heard both sides of the argument, and I'm not kidding. This influence in Pakistan, somebody said, why don't you boycott X or something? Because Elon Musk, who's gone to Israel, is definitely a Zionist. He's wearing that thing, bringing the hostages back. And she's, no, I'm going to keep using their own tools against them. I'm like, isn't that a belief of convenience? So yeah, so you're right.
It's just that's horseshit. It's just you don't have to explain this to you.
Okay, so there's an interesting poll that Brother Rashid shared, and obviously it's not his. The Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey published a survey regarding topics related to the war between Israel and Hamas. So, in your view, given what happened after it, meaning Israel just came in and just destroyed your entire city, was Hamas's decision to launch its offensive against Israel on the 7th of October a correct or incorrect one? So in the West Bank, which is relatively safer, and I'm actually going to talk to you about IDF's operations there as well, 82% of the Palestinians living in the West Bank are saying, yep, well done. And 12% are opposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
But here, significantly large number of people who obviously are getting the wrong end of the stick, they are opposed to it. So does that mean that this resolve is breaking and people who are immediately outside of the immediate conflict zone, they become more heroic and they want martyrdom more, but when the martyrdom is actually presented to you, then you turn it down?
I think that the West Bank Palestinians are not in nowhere near as dangerous of a position. And of course, they understand that when the army comes in, shit gets real. They're not in Gaza. So they get to watch it from a distance. No matter what their circumstances, they get to say, oh, great job, Hamas. We're not going to get as bad of a response. Like Israeli army is coming into the West Bank. Sure, they're going into Jenin, Nablus. They're going into different cities. But the Air Force is not dropping bombs on them. They're not going in the way. It's not even close. It's not an all-out war. They're incursions. It's very different. And they know that they're not getting that actual response. Gaza is the one. So when the Gazans first heard about the October 7th attack, many of them, I'm sure, were very happy about it because they thought maybe this is going to be the day we liberate Palestine, right? But when the Israeli army was able to control the terrorists that came in and essentially stop the killing, they said, oh, shit. Like, Hamas didn't get the job done. We're about to get fucking hit. Like, Israel's going to come for us heavy now. And so I don't think that a lot of them are against it per se. I think they're against it because they knew that the response would be so bad it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, but in an event like this, obviously, they all get mobilized. They all get rejuvenated that, okay, it's time for jihad. It's time to destroy Israel, blah, blah, blah. On the 7th of October, I saw that excitement from Muslims from all over the world. There was absolutely no shock or horror. They were all celebrating it. Like these, and I'm talking about these lipstick Muslims as well, who are far removed from the...
Oh, yeah.
So at that time, they found this motivation. At that time, they were happy and they were rejuvenated in their resolve. It's like, okay, now is the time to wipe Israel and take back our territory. And then obviously that resolve starts breaking immediately after Israel's operation. They started asking for a ceasefire. And now it's interesting that they're saying we're killing a huge number of Israeli soldiers, but at the same time, they're asking for a ceasefire. If you're winning on the battlefield, why are you asking for...
They're not winning on the battlefield.
Of course they're not.
They're trying to...
Yeah.
They're 100 soldiers is no joke. It's a lot of people, but
relatives is nothing.
And first of all, if Israel wanted to guarantee their soldiers' lives, they could easily do that. They didn't even have to go in. Yeah. They technically do, because if they really want to get rid of Hamas, they have to go into they have to flood the tunnels. They do have to go in there at some point. But if they just wanted to get them to surrender, again, it's not that I would have wanted this, and it could have started a much bigger war if they would have just bombed, just indiscriminately, just didn't even think about it, just bombed.
So some people do say that Israel has been bombing indiscriminately because, 70% of Gazan buildings, structures are not there anymore. So that's a lot of bombing.
Or at least damaged.
Yeah, or at least damaged. Yes, I understand that they give an advance warning that we're going to be bombing this place, but that's a lot of bombs. How do you answer that?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that there are Israelis in the government or Israeli civil. First of all, to sit here and say Israeli civilians are upset that these buildings are being destroyed. I don't live in Narnia, right? Most Israelis are probably like, I'm cool with this shit. Go ahead. And I'll be extremely honest. I'll be extremely honest with you, and it's not going to make me look good. When after October 7th happened, and I saw like the Air Force bombing Gaza, I was pretty happy about it. Not because I wanted civilians to die, but because it's just my natural human response. I see my people, that what happens to my people, and I want vengeance. And again, I understand it on the other side too. I can't, as fucked up as it sounds, I understand why the Muslim world is so happy when Hamas goes in and does the disgusting stuff they did.
Good, you understand. That's what they're saying, yeah.
They They block it out. They block, oh, rape, all this. Okay, but it doesn't matter. Resistance. Your brain just, you have this tunnel vision of they did it because of their circumstance. Anything they do is justified. At that point, none of it really matters. So they're.
Yeah, but Israel can't behave like Hamas.
And nor should they.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that the IDF should just bomb it to hell and kill everyone. I'm speaking from my human feelings and what should be from a human perspective in terms of moral high ground and standards. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, look, I can understand that too. I'm sure when America went after the Taliban after 9/11, I remember the coverage on CNN and the Fox News at that time. They were very hawkish. It was a different world back then. And now I'm like, what happened to these people? Because they're so much softer now. And that's why it feels like it's just crumbling from within. That they don't have the desire to fight for themselves or fight for what they believe is right, fight for their survival and existence, which is, I think it is problematic. When you give too much credit, or even when you show too much humanity to your opponents who don't value it, who have a totally different set of standards. I think Jews are very different in that regard. I think Jews have a much stronger resolve for their survival than most of these Western countries.
Because the smart ones of us understand that we're going to have to give up being liked to survive. Meaning, if we want to really survive and protect our people, are just not going to agree with. They're not going to like it. They're not going to like us, because if we keep trying to be politically correct, we're going to call for a ceasefire. The war will end. Hamas will restock. They'll start over again. We'll be back at square one. Another October 7th can happen again. We didn't accomplish anything. We lost soldiers for no reason. All these Gazans died for no reason. At this point, Israel has to go and do their best to accomplish their goal. And America at some point, in maybe a month or two, is going to say, hey, guys, you guys are taking too long. We're sorry. We don't have your back anymore. Best of luck. If any Israeli government official hears this video, we have to go all the way. And when I say all the way, it doesn't mean killing civilians. It means you have a goal to get Hamas as a terrorist organization to surrender. Even if it takes a year, it has to happen, because if we don't, we're just going to continue to be in this place. What happens afterwards is another challenge. This whole thing is insanely difficult. We have to continue. We've already gone this far. We have to, and it sucks because it means more death.
Apparently, the Biden administration have told Netanyahu to finish this or wrap it up.
But what does that even mean? We're giving you a month. The time is running out. You better get rid of these guys.
No, but I've always believed that the West can actually pressure Israel.
No, I get it. But you realize that but Haris, that also means that what's the Israeli government going to think? Okay, if they want us to do this faster, that means they're going to have to get more brutal. What do you think that means? Oh, we could be nicer? No. If you want us to finish this up faster, then we got to play dirty then. What do you? No shit, right?
Okay, so tell me a little bit about this. We've been hearing about flooding the tunnels, etc., and Hamas says jihadis are hiding in the tunnels and they're using civilians as human shields, etc. Of course, I'm no expert. I have no idea how this works, but I'm just wondering how expansive is this tunnel network, that if they've gone in from the north, then why haven't they flooded it yet?
Go on, share your screen. There are floors.
IDF pumping seawater.
Something like that. There's so many, but I remember seeing that there's around 8 different levels. It's not just that there's one level underground. They have multiple levels of the tunnels.
Reports by the Wall Street Journal today say Israel has started pumping seawater into Hamas's Gaza tunnels. There are more than 100 miles of tunnels under Gaza, and the IDF is hoping that a surge of water from the Mediterranean Sea will destroy the militants' operations.
There's also, you heard about the sponge bombs?
Yes.
Then there's so much challenge with these tunnels, man. That's also what people don't get. You have like guys like Mohammed Hijab. He's not a dumb guy, but just he doesn't know anything about military. So he's let's just do his thing with his. My beard is like almost, it's not as long.
It's getting there. But yeah, his beard goes in all directions.
His beard is like this, whatever. He's just a big mother. Israel, the coward idea of soldiers need to just go in there on foot, which we've done, but he thought we weren't going to do it. He thought we were scared and wouldn't do it. And then now that we're doing it, he's complaining that we're too brutal. I love how that works. Like,
He's still calling them cowards.
But when we don't do a certain thing, we're cowards. And then as soon as we do it, we're also cowards because we're too brutal. It's like the premise of that is they just don't allow us to be at all. No matter what, if we die, then we were like, you loser soldier, good for you, you died. And then, but when we don't die and we do an amazing job fighting and we kill a bunch of Hamas terrorists, oh yeah, you guys are evil terrorists.
Whenever they kill an Israeli soldier, they say, aha, our brave Hamas fighters have killed them, blah, blah, blah. And the IDF can only kill civilians, blah, blah, blah. But when the IDF responds or kills them or captures them, they all become civilians.
Oh, yeah. First of all, a lot of Hamas in their parades, when you see them on YouTube, right, you watch them online or on these Telegram channels. I was following a Janine channel for a while. It was called Janine Kassam, and it was all in Arabic, but I could get a premise of what was going on. They would just show different videos. Whenever they show videos, these propaganda videos, whether it's you've heard of the Lions Den?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So pro-Lions Den, pro-Islamic Jihad, pro-Hamas, whatever it is, they want to purport them to be very tough, very dangerous, very serious. So they have their uniforms.
Kind of like the Chechens.
Whatever. Right. Anyway, they want to show them off to scare the Zionists, so they have their nasheed and the Arabic music. Honestly, sometimes it's pretty catchy shit. I listen to it at the gym every now and then. I'm not even kidding. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Little do they know that a Zionist is actually he's using it for his own motivation and source of entertainment.
It's great shit to work out to, even though it's like calling for my death. It's great. It's like I'm not even kidding. I think it's because it's.
But to be fair, I've actually heard some really awful Israeli singers singing those songs or hymns in Hebrew as well.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
It's pretty bad, man.
Yes, but
we'll kill them. We'll get in there.
No, I'm not saying it's not bad. What I'm saying is it's not done in the same like deeply ideological way, and you might not be able to see how it's different to you. It might just sound exactly the same. When it comes to these nasheeds, it's ingrained. Like they play it at their rallies, like Hamas rallies. They'll play it for everybody. The whole Gazan population is listening to it, and a guy gets on a podium and says certain. It's much more deeply like religiously rooted. Whereas in Israel, you'll have religious groups in the West Bank who have their songs and whatnot, and maybe they'll sing it during war. But for the most part, when things are more normal, they're not constantly pumping this stuff into like Israeli culture, if that makes any sense. If you go on Google and you look at Hamas, they look pretty dangerous, right? They look like serious guys. But when Israel goes in on the ground with all of their artillery and tanks and soldiers, special forces, dogs, they go in heavy. Suddenly, most of the Hamas guys, everything comes off. Now they're wearing t-shirts, jeans, sandals. They're fighting with civilian clothes. All of that tough Hamas gear. I'm not saying none of them wear it, but from what I'm seeing, a lot of them seem to be blending in with the civilians. They take their weapons out. They come out of a house. They pop out of a tunnel. They shoot. They go back in. Where's all this crazy propaganda nasheed shit when we come in?
Oh, yeah, it's all bullshit. It doesn't matter. Modern warfare is not won or fought that way. You can send Mohammed Hijab in there, and then you can pit him against a 5'6" Israeli soldier. That soldier, if he's well equipped and well trained, doesn't matter how big or strong you are, you'll be taken out. So this is all propaganda for this Muslim diaspora that, hey, look, we are so tough and we have less weapons, but these evil
people really,
it's all bullshit.
People in America, the thing about what people don't realize is Jews in America, most of them haven't been in any military environment. They're a lot softer than your typical Israeli Jew. So when you see like Americans getting bullied or harassed or things happen, a lot of American Jews are just very pacifist. They're very gentle people. How are American Jews so soft, but yet these Israelis seem to be such strong fighters? Because they're very different people.
Yeah, look, they're better equipped as well. They're better equipped as well.
Of course they are, but they're tough. But they're very good soldiers, man. Especially the special forces guys. They're as good as they come.
Like any other modern army, they will be well trained, they will be well equipped, and their morale has to be high as well. They have to believe in the cause.
Weapons. They're tough. They're tough people. They have balls. I'll show you a video after of a guy who was going into a house. He had a grenade thrown at him. It hit him. It injured him. He stormed in and killed the guy after I got a grenade thrown at him. You see it on the cam. You see the grenade blow up. He gets thrown against the wall. He gets right back up again, goes in, kills the guy.
Yeah, when you're in a conflict, I think those people would definitely be a lot more tougher than people like us who have never seen any conflict. So that's just a given. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Rafi. We should definitely do it again. Thanks for your honest, insightful interview. Any last words you want to say?
I'm really appreciative. This was really an amazing episode. I had such a great time. I could talk to you for hours, man. I would love to do this again in the future and just cover more ground. And if you guys want to see more of my content, I cover a lot of the conflict overall on my channel. You can follow me on Soothing Semantics.
There it is, guys.
On YouTube. That is my channel right there. Make sure to check out the 2 recent episodes. It's one episode. I did 2 parts with Haris. So really make sure to check it out. I've done debates with Palestinians, debates with one Palestinian guy. I've done a lot of videos on this subject. So these are a bunch of Israeli fighters. Make sure to look through it. I cover a lot of other topics as well. It would really mean a lot if you support the channel. And that is that. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Rafi. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/Haris Sultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.